Have you ever set a goal with excitement only to watch it slip through your fingers months later? You're not lazy, you're not weak, and it's not just bad luck. The reason most people fail to achieve their goals is far deeper than discipline or effort. It's rooted in the mind itself, how we think, how we react, and how we chase what we desire. In Buddhism, understanding the mind is the key to lasting success, not just temporary motivation. Today, we're going to explore 7 powerful lessons from Buddhist wisdom that reveal why people fail at their goals and how you can truly succeed. The first reason people fail at their goals is attachment to outcomes. In Buddhism, suffering is often traced back to clinging the tendency to grasp onto things, whether they are material objects, people, experiences, or even ideas of success. When it comes to goals, clinging shows up in the form of attaching your happiness, your self-worth, and even your identity to the results you hope to achieve. We tend to think, if I reach this goal, I'll finally be happy. If I fail, I'll be miserable. This simple thought pattern is at the heart of why most people struggle with lasting achievement. Think about it. When you set a goal, you often create a mental picture of what success looks like. Maybe it's finishing a big project, earning a certain promotion, losing a set amount of weight, or mastering a new skill. Alongside that image comes the expectation that achieving it will automatically bring fulfillment and satisfaction. At first, this is motivating. You feel excitement and energy as you imagine the end result. But there's a hidden trap here. Your happiness becomes conditional. Your well-being is now tied to something external and uncertain. And the moment reality doesn't match your expectations, when progress is slower than you hoped, when obstacles arise, or when you stumble along the way, the very thing that was supposed to motivate you becomes the source of frustration, self-doubt, and discouragement. Buddhist teachings offer a clear lens on this problem. The practice of non-attachment is not about giving up on your goals or being indifferent to success. It is about freeing your mind from the emotional burden that comes with clinging to specific results. Instead of saying, "I must achieve this," or "I am a failure," you shift your focus to the present moment, to the actions and effort you can control right now. The goal remains a guiding star, but your sense of peace and satisfaction is no longer dependent on reaching it. This subtle but profound shift allows you to engage fully in the process, rather than being trapped in a cycle of anxiety over what the future might bring. To make this concrete, consider someone learning a new skill, like playing the piano. A person attached to outcomes might constantly measure their practice against an imagined standard of perfection. They might get frustrated after missing a note, comparing themselves to professional musicians, or worrying that they'll never be good enough. Each practice session becomes stressful because it is evaluated not on effort, but on results. Over time, this attachment can lead to giving up entirely, as the weight of unmet expectations becomes too heavy. Now, contrast that with a person who practices without attachment to the outcome. They focus on showing up each day, exploring the instrument, enjoying small improvements, and learning from mistakes without letting them define their worth. Their practice becomes lighter, more consistent, and surprisingly effective. Ironically, when you release the desperate need for a particular outcome, progress often comes faster. The mind is no longer paralyzed by fear of failure or distracted by comparison. You act with clarity, intention, and creativity, and the results naturally follow as a byproduct of mindful effort. Attachment to outcomes also affects the way we respond to setbacks. When you cling to a goal as the ultimate measure of success, every obstacle feels catastrophic. A missed deadline, a negative review, or a temporary failure becomes proof that you are incapable or unlucky. This emotional response is exhausting and can make you quit prematurely. Buddhism teaches that these setbacks are not enemies, but teachers. By observing your reactions without judgment and without clinging to the idealized result, you can learn from each experience. Every mistake, every delay, every difficulty becomes a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. The wisdom here is simple. Suffering is not caused by challenges themselves, but by our attachment to how we think life should be. Another important point is that attachment often blinds people to the smaller victories that actually matter. If you are obsessed with a final outcome, you may overlook the incremental improvements along the way. Losing sight of small wins can erode motivation, because your mind only recognizes success as something massive and distant. Buddhism emphasizes mindfulness, noticing each moment as it comes and appreciating the effort you put forth. By celebrating small, meaningful progress, instead of waiting for a monumental leap, you cultivate a steady, resilient mindset that sustains long-term growth. Furthermore, attachment to outcomes can create a paradoxical cycle. The more you cling to success, the more your fear of failure grows. The more fear dominates, the more hesitation and self-doubt emerge, which ironically increases the chances of falling short. Buddhism provides a practical antidote. Act fully in the present, give your best effort, and release the obsession with whether your actions will ultimately succeed. In essence, you align your energy with what you can control: your actions, your focus, your discipline, and accept that results are influenced by countless variables beyond your control. This doesn't mean you stop striving. It means you strive wisely, with calm and clarity, rather than desperation. Ultimately, releasing attachment to outcomes is about redefining success. In the Buddhist framework, success is measured not by external achievements, but by the quality of your mind, your consistency, and your ability to remain composed and focused amidst uncertainty. By doing so, you not only increase your chances of achieving your goals, but also protect yourself from the emotional roller coaster that comes with tying happiness to results. You become resilient, patient, and mindful, qualities that ensure that whether you achieve your goal or not, your journey is fulfilling and transformative. In conclusion, attachment to outcomes is a subtle but powerful reason why people fail at their goals. It creates a cycle of anxiety, frustration, and disappointment, making even small setbacks feel catastrophic. Buddhism teaches that freedom from this attachment allows you to act with clarity, enjoy the process, learn from setbacks, and cultivate inner peace. When you focus on effort rather than result, on presence rather than expectation, you transform not only your path to achievement, but also the quality of your life itself. Success then becomes less about reaching a destination and more about who you become along the way. The moment you let go of clinging to outcomes, your mind becomes lighter, your actions more consistent, and your progress unstoppable. The second reason most people fail at their goals is that they chase them for the wrong reasons. This is subtle because it doesn't feel like a problem at first. On the surface, pursuing a goal seems natural after all. Ambition and drive are celebrated in every culture. But in Buddhism, the quality of your intention behind your actions is as important, if not more, than the actions themselves. Many people set goals based on ego, societal pressure, or the desire for approval, and these goals almost inevitably lead to dissatisfaction and failure. Consider this. A young professional might aim for a promotion not because they genuinely want to develop their skills or contribute meaningfully to their work, but because it will impress others or confirm their worth. A student might chase high grades not for the joy of learning, but to gain validation from parents or peers. A person might pursue wealth, status, or fame, thinking it will finally make them happy, These are all examples of goals driven by craving, what Buddhism identifies as tanha, and craving is the root of suffering. The problem isn't the goal itself. The problem is the hidden attachment to external validation or superficial rewards that the goal represents. Goals based on the wrong reasons are inherently unstable. They rely on external factors that you cannot control. Other people's approval, recognition, market conditions, or the whims of fortune. When these factors fail to meet your expectations, disappointment follows. Worse, even when you do achieve the goal, it often feels hollow. You gain what you thought would bring happiness, only to realize it doesn't. The excitement fades quickly, leaving behind the same sense of emptiness that drove you to chase the goal in the first place. This cycle can repeat endlessly, with each new achievement promising fulfillment but failing to deliver it. Buddhism teaches that the key to breaking this cycle is aligning your intentions with values that are intrinsic and meaningful, rather than extrinsic and conditional. Instead of pursuing goals for validation or comparison, focus on goals that cultivate personal growth, understanding, or genuine benefit for yourself and others. For example, rather than learning a skill to show off, learn it to expand your capabilities and deepen your experience. Rather than pursuing wealth simply to impress others, pursue it as a means to live with security, generosity, and the freedom to contribute. When the reason behind your goal is rooted in authentic purpose, motivation becomes sustainable, and success is measured not just by an external outcome, but by your development as a person. Chasing goals for the wrong reasons also distorts your decision-making process. When ego and external approval are the drivers, every choice is filtered through the lens of, "What will this make me look like?" or "Will this please others?" This creates constant distraction and anxiety. You may take actions that appear to move you toward your goal, but actually divert your energy from what truly matters. You may abandon meaningful tasks because they don't look impressive, or avoid challenges because failure would hurt your image. The result is inefficiency, frustration, and burnout, yet it often goes unnoticed because the person believes they are simply working hard. Another dimension of this problem is comparison. Goals based on ego often lead to measuring yourself against others. You might constantly look at what others have achieved and feel inadequate, driving you to chase their version of success rather than your own. This is the perfect recipe for failure because it disconnects you from your unique path. Buddhism emphasizes non-comparison and mindfulness, encouraging you to focus on your own journey rather than being distracted by someone else's milestones. True progress is personal, not relative, and chasing someone else's standards guarantees dissatisfaction. Moreover, goals driven by the wrong reasons tend to generate stress and inner conflict. You may achieve the result, but your mind and heart remain uneasy. For instance, someone who climbs the corporate ladder purely for prestige may find themselves trapped in a high-pressure environment that drains joy and meaning from their life. The reward they sought cannot compensate for the suffering caused by pursuing it for the wrong reason. Buddhism encourages reflection on the intention behind every action. If the motivation is rooted in craving, attachment, or ego, it will inevitably lead to dissatisfaction, regardless of apparent success. To overcome this, Buddhism recommends cultivating awareness of your intentions. Before committing to a goal, pause and ask yourself, why am I doing this? Is this goal aligned with my values and my well-being? Will it cultivate wisdom, compassion, or genuine growth? Goals anchored in authentic motivation generate intrinsic satisfaction that persists even when external circumstances change. You may face setbacks, delays, or failures, but your sense of purpose and engagement with the process protects you from despair. The joy shifts from "I must achieve this" to "I am growing and contributing through this effort." This shift transforms the entire experience of striving. In practical terms, this means taking the time to examine your reasons for wanting something. It might require honesty, self-reflection, and even uncomfortable recognition that some of your goals are fueled by ego or societal pressure. But this process is invaluable. Once you identify the deeper, meaningful reasons behind your goals, your effort becomes more focused, your actions more aligned, and your progress more sustainable. You stop burning energy, chasing empty rewards, and start cultivating fulfillment from within. This is the kind of intention that Buddhist wisdom calls right view, seeing clearly what truly matters and aligning your actions with it. Ultimately, chasing goals for the wrong reasons is a silent but pervasive reason for failure. Most people do not fail because they lack skill or effort. They fail because the foundation of their pursuit is unstable. When your motivation is anchored in ego, craving, or external validation, even success cannot bring lasting satisfaction. Buddhism shows that the path to genuine accomplishment is not through external reward, but through intentional, mindful, and purpose-driven effort. When your reasons are aligned with inner values, each step you take is meaningful, each challenge becomes an opportunity for growth, and the journey itself becomes as rewarding as the destination. In short, chasing goals for the wrong reasons creates a fragile, conditional framework for achievement that collapses under stress, comparison, and unmet expectations. The antidote is awareness of intention, alignment with values, and cultivation of intrinsic motivation. When you act for the right reasons, you not only increase your chances of reaching your goals, but you also transform the very act of striving into a source of wisdom, fulfillment, and lasting resilience. The third reason most people fail at their goals is ignorance of the mind. This is one of the most fundamental, yet least understood, reasons why we struggle to achieve what we set out to do. We often assume that achieving a goal is about planning, discipline, skill, or effort, but Buddhism teaches that these external factors alone are not enough. The real obstacle is within the way the mind operates, the habits of thought we rarely notice, and the unconscious patterns that govern our choices. If we do not understand our mind, no amount of effort or strategy can lead to consistent success. Consider this. How often have you set a goal with confidence, only to find yourself sabotaging it in small, invisible ways? You might procrastinate, make excuses, or get distracted by trivial things. You might convince yourself that tomorrow will be a better day to start, even though deep down you know it won't. Perhaps you act impulsively, making decisions that temporarily feel good but move you further away from your objectives. On the surface, these behaviors appear external, but in reality, they are expressions of the mind's patterns, unseen forces guiding your actions, often without your conscious awareness. Buddhism emphasizes that the mind is the source of both suffering and liberation. Ignorance of the mind means living reactively, allowing impulses, fears, doubts, and habitual thoughts to dictate your choices. We rarely stop to examine why we think, why we feel anxious or distracted, or why motivation comes and goes. Instead, we blame circumstances, lack of talent, or bad timing. But these external factors are rarely the root cause of failure. The real reason lies in the mind's conditioning, its attachments, aversions, and delusions. Without understanding this, your efforts are like trying to steer a ship without knowing the currents and winds that push it off course. One key aspect of this ignorance is unawareness of self-sabotaging thoughts. Most people think that effort alone is enough, but if the mind is filled with doubt, fear, or negative self-talk, it will quietly undermine action. You may consciously plan to work on a project every day, but internally, a voice tells you, "You're not good enough, this is too hard," or "Why bother? Others are better than you." These subtle mental patterns create resistance that is almost impossible to overcome without self-awareness. Buddhism teaches that recognizing these patterns is the first step toward freedom. Only by seeing clearly how your mind works can you begin to choose your actions deliberately instead of being pushed around by invisible forces. Another dimension is distraction. The modern world bombards us with endless stimuli: social media, news, notifications, opinions, and comparisons. Without mindfulness, the mind scatters its energy, jumping from one stimulus to another, never fully focusing on the task at hand. This lack of concentration is a major cause of failure. In Buddhism, mindfulness is not merely a meditation technique, it is a practical tool for mastering attention. By training the mind to observe thoughts without immediately reacting to them, you gain the ability to focus on what matters, resist distractions, and act with intention. Ignorance of this principle keeps people spinning in circles, working hard but accomplishing little. Ignorance also manifests as attachment to habitual thinking. We tend to repeat mental patterns that are comfortable or familiar, even if they do not serve us. For example, a person may believe, "I am just not a disciplined person," and then act in ways that reinforce that belief. Another may think, "I can only succeed if I follow the path others have taken," and lose their individuality and creativity. These mental habits are subtle but powerful. Buddhism teaches that the mind is malleable. With awareness, reflection, and disciplined practice, you can reshape thought patterns, build constructive habits, and align mental energy with your goals. Ignorance of this fact leads to repeated mistakes and frustration. Fear is another manifestation of ignorance of the mind. Most people fail because they fear failure, rejection, or discomfort. They let imagined scenarios control their choices. Buddhism teaches that fear is a product of the mind, often inflated and distorted by habit and imagination. When you observe fear without immediately acting on it, you discover that much of it has no real substance. By understanding the mind's tendency to exaggerate threats, you can approach challenges with clarity, courage, and resilience, rather than letting fear dictate your actions and limit your potential. Ignorance of the mind also blinds people to their own motivations. We may pursue a goal thinking we are motivated by desire for growth, but deeper observation often reveals hidden drivers: fear of shame, desire for approval, avoidance of discomfort. These unconscious motivations distort effort, create inconsistency, and lead to frustration. Buddhist practice emphasizes self-inquiry and meditation to uncover the underlying causes of behavior. When you see clearly why you are doing what you are doing, you gain control over your actions, aligning them with authentic purpose rather than reactive impulse. Moreover, ignorance of the mind leads to reactive behavior in the face of setbacks. Most people respond to difficulties with anger, frustration, or despair. They blame themselves, others, or circumstances. These reactions consume energy and cloud judgment, making it harder to recover and continue toward their goals. Buddhism teaches equanimity, the ability to remain calm and balanced amidst challenges. Equanimity does not mean indifference. It means observing reality as it is, understanding your emotional responses, and acting with clarity rather than being swept away by them. This mental skill is critical to long-term success because life inevitably presents obstacles, and those who are untrained in the mind are easily derailed. The ultimate lesson here is that knowledge of the mind is the foundation of all accomplishment. Without it, External strategies, hard work, and determination are often wasted. Buddhism emphasizes practices like meditation, reflection, and mindfulness precisely because they cultivate awareness of the mind. These practices allow you to notice mental patterns, manage emotional reactions, reduce distraction, and clarify your intentions. When you understand how your mind operates, you can design your actions intelligently, sustain effort without burnout, and approach challenges with wisdom rather than fear. Ignorance of the mind is the silent force that makes so many people struggle, fail, or abandon their goals, often without ever realizing why. In essence, the mind is both the obstacle and the solution. Those who fail at their goals often do so because they underestimate its power, assuming success is purely external. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that the inner world shapes the outer world. To achieve lasting success, you must first understand, train, and direct the mind. When you cultivate awareness, observe thoughts without judgment, manage emotions skillfully, and align intentions with authentic purpose, the mind becomes a powerful ally rather than an enemy. Ignorance of the mind is costly, but knowledge of the mind is transformative. It turns struggle into growth, obstacles into opportunities, and effort into meaningful progress. The fourth reason most people fail at their goals is impatience. Impatience is deceptively subtle. It masquerades as ambition, energy, or motivation, but in reality, it often undermines everything it touches. In the modern world, we are conditioned to expect rapid results. Instant gratification surrounds us. A video loads in seconds, messages are answered immediately, and we can purchase almost anything online without waiting. This constant conditioning spills over into our approach to personal goals, creating an unrealistic expectation that meaningful progress should happen quickly and that any delay is a failure. Buddhism teaches that this impatience is a primary source of suffering, and it is a silent killer of long-term achievement. Impatience arises from a misunderstanding of time and process. Most people measure progress against an imagined endpoint, not the journey itself. They set goals and assume that results should appear within a predetermined time frame. When life fails to conform to their timeline, frustration sets in. They may push harder, skip necessary steps, or become anxious and distracted. In some cases, impatience can lead to abandoning a goal entirely because the initial momentum faded or because the effort required seems too slow. The mind wants results without delay, but meaningful change, skill acquisition, and personal growth cannot be rushed. They unfold gradually, like seeds growing into trees. Buddhism emphasizes the concept of patience, or kshanti, as one of the 6 paramitas, or perfections, that lead to a wise and fulfilling life. Patience is not passive waiting. It is active endurance, a calm and steady engagement with the present moment, regardless of obstacles or delays. Impatience, in contrast, is restless, seeking shortcuts and demanding immediate outcomes. When we are impatient, we lose focus, make mistakes, and fail to appreciate the incremental steps that are essential for long-term success. Patience trains the mind to see that growth is a process, that mastery requires repetition, and that setbacks are part of the natural rhythm of life. One of the most dangerous aspects of impatience is that it distorts perception. When someone is impatient, they magnify obstacles and perceive temporary setbacks as permanent failures. A delayed result may feel like catastrophe, leading to panic, discouragement, or rash decisions. Buddhist practice encourages awareness of this distorted perception. By observing how the mind reacts to delays and frustrations, one can see clearly that impatience is largely an internal state, a product of expectation rather than objective reality. This insight allows the individual to respond calmly, adjust strategies wisely, and continue toward the goal without being derailed by temporary difficulties. Impatience also undermines discipline. Long-term goals require consistency and repeated effort. Whether learning a skill, building a business, or cultivating healthy habits, progress accumulates slowly, often imperceptibly at first. Those who are impatient are prone to inconsistency. They start enthusiastically, lose momentum, and either overcompensate with frantic effort or abandon the process entirely. Buddhism teaches that patience allows the mind to remain steady, to maintain daily practice without being swayed by fluctuating emotions or temporary setbacks. Through patient effort, small actions compound into meaningful results, and the journey itself becomes a source of growth and satisfaction. Another dimension is the inability to accept natural timing. Life operates according to its own rhythm. Skills take time to develop, relationships take time to mature, and understanding takes time to deepen. Impatience fights against this natural flow, demanding that the world move according to personal desire. Buddhism emphasizes harmony with the natural course of events. By cultivating patience, one aligns with the natural unfolding of life, reduces unnecessary suffering, and learns to work effectively within the limits of reality rather than resisting it. This alignment makes effort more productive because energy is directed intelligently rather than wasted on frustration and anxiety. Impatience is often closely tied to attachment to outcomes, which we discussed earlier. When a goal is tied to a specific result within a specific time frame, impatience grows naturally. The mind constantly checks for progress, measures against expectations, and panics when results are delayed. Buddhism teaches that by releasing attachment to outcomes, impatience diminishes. When focus shifts from the distant result to the present effort, when the process itself becomes meaningful, there is no need to rush. The mind can act steadily, observe progress, learn from mistakes, and adapt without the constant stress of unmet expectations. Patience becomes the natural byproduct of mindfulness and non-attachment. Impatience also distorts motivation. People often mistake the rush of anxiety or urgency as motivation, thinking that pressure will drive them to succeed. In reality, this motivated state is shallow and unstable. Motivation driven by impatience is often reactive, leading to burnout, frustration, and inconsistent effort. Buddhism encourages cultivating deep, stable motivation rooted in purpose, awareness, and understanding. This type of motivation does not depend on immediate results. It endures through difficulty, setbacks, and delays. It is the difference between a flame that flickers with each gust of wind and a steady fire that burns continuously over time. Finally, impatience prevents true mastery. Mastery, whether of a craft, personal development, or wisdom, cannot be rushed. It requires repeated effort, reflection, adaptation, and acceptance of gradual progress. Those who are impatient frequently skip steps, neglect fundamentals, or abandon practices prematurely. Buddhism emphasizes that mastery is inseparable from patience. The same principle applies to life itself. Personal growth, understanding, and fulfillment unfold slowly. Impatience obstructs the very process that leads to lasting achievement and deep satisfaction. In practical terms, overcoming impatience begins with self-awareness. Notice when the mind is rushing, when frustration builds, or when you feel dissatisfied with slow progress. Pause and reflect. Recognize that impatience is a signal, not a solution. Shift focus from the distant goal to the present moment, from imagined outcomes to actual effort. Develop routines that emphasize steady, consistent action rather than dramatic bursts. Cultivate mindfulness practices that train the mind to remain calm, aware, and engaged regardless of external circumstances. Accept that meaningful change is a gradual process and that setbacks, delays, and obstacles are part of the natural rhythm of growth. In conclusion, impatience is a silent but powerful reason most people fail at their goals. It creates frustration, distorted perception, inconsistency, burnout, and a constant sense of dissatisfaction. Buddhist wisdom teaches that patience is not passive waiting but active, mindful endurance, a skill that transforms the journey itself into a source of growth. By aligning with the natural rhythm of life, releasing attachment to results, and focusing on present effort, impatience diminishes. When patience replaces urgency, your actions become more consistent, your learning more profound, and your path toward goals steady, sustainable, and ultimately successful. Mastery, fulfillment, and growth cannot be rushed, but through patience, they become attainable. The fifth reason most people fail at their goals is resisting discomfort. On the surface, it seems natural to avoid pain, difficulty, or struggle. After all, evolution has wired humans to seek pleasure and avoid harm. But in the modern context, this instinct often works against us. Growth, achievement, and transformation are inherently uncomfortable processes. Whether it's learning a new skill, developing discipline, facing fears, or building meaningful habits, the journey demands that we step outside our comfort zone. Buddhism teaches that suffering, resistance, and discomfort are not enemies to be avoided. They are essential signals and teachers on the path of wisdom. Those who resist discomfort unwittingly block the very experiences that lead to meaningful progress. Discomfort comes in many forms. Physical discomfort might appear in the discipline of exercise, endurance, or hard work. Emotional discomfort arises when we confront fear, uncertainty, rejection, or failure. Intellectual discomfort emerges when we question long-held beliefs or face truths about ourselves that are difficult to accept. Most people instinctively avoid these sensations, seeking immediate relief instead. They abandon challenging projects, procrastinate, or distract themselves with superficial pleasures. While this avoidance temporarily reduces tension, it also prevents learning, growth, and resilience. Over time, a life of avoidance becomes a life of stagnation, marked by unfulfilled potential and unachieved goals. Buddhism provides a profound framework for understanding the role of discomfort in human life. The first noble truth teaches that suffering is an unavoidable aspect of existence. Discomfort is not a sign of failure or weakness. It is an inevitable part of the process of living, learning, and evolving. When we resist it, we create additional suffering through fear, avoidance, and frustration. When we embrace it with awareness, we transform discomfort into a teacher, a guide that helps us understand our mind, refine our character, and align our actions with our purpose. Those who succeed consistently in life are not those who avoid discomfort. They are those who learn to navigate it skillfully. One of the most common ways people resist discomfort is through procrastination. Tasks that are challenging, unfamiliar, or demanding are postponed because the mind associates them with stress or unpleasant effort. Yet, the very tasks that feel uncomfortable are often the ones most critical to achieving a goal. In Buddhist terms, this is a form of attachment to ease the desire for a painless path. Mindfulness and awareness help identify this pattern. By noticing the subtle signals of avoidance and choosing to act despite discomfort, you train the mind to persist and grow. Every act of facing discomfort reinforces resilience, patience, and clarity, building the mental muscles necessary for long-term achievement. Resistance to discomfort also appears as fear of failure. Most people avoid challenges that might expose them to judgment, mistakes, or temporary defeat. Buddhism teaches that fear is a product of the mind, often amplified by attachment to outcomes and craving for approval. When fear drives action or inaction, it limits potential. By confronting discomfort deliberately, whether through small experiments or incremental challenges, you desensitize the mind to fear and develop confidence in your ability to navigate uncertainty. Discomfort becomes not a threat, but a teacher, a mirror reflecting your areas for growth. Another important aspect is emotional discomfort. Goals that matter often provoke tension, doubt, and frustration. Starting a new business, learning a new language, or cultivating discipline requires grappling with the unknown and confronting the parts of yourself that are lazy, insecure, or resistant. Most people retreat in the face of these internal challenges, mistaking avoidance for wisdom. Buddhism emphasizes observation and acceptance of these inner states without judgment. Emotional discomfort is a signal that growth is occurring. Resisting it only prolongs suffering. By acknowledging fear, frustration, or self-doubt and continuing to act, you convert emotional resistance into insight, wisdom, and strength. Physical discomfort is another teacher many overlook. Long-term goals often demand sustained effort that strains the body or challenges natural inclinations. Training for fitness, working long hours, or simply practicing new habits requires endurance, discipline, and willingness to accept temporary fatigue or soreness. Those who resist physical discomfort often quit early, miss milestones, or settle for mediocrity. Buddhism reminds us that the body and mind are interconnected. Enduring temporary discomfort with awareness strengthens not only the body, but also mental resilience. The capacity to tolerate and work through discomfort in small, manageable doses builds the foundation for tackling larger challenges over time. Discomfort also plays a critical role in learning and skill development. Mastery requires repeated mistakes, correction, and adaptation. Each mistake creates discomfort, frustration, embarrassment, or self-doubt, but these sensations are essential for refining, understanding, and ability. Those who resist discomfort avoid these moments of failure and stagnate. Buddhist practice emphasizes mindfulness and reflection, noticing each moment of struggle without reacting impulsively or judging oneself harshly. By embracing the discomfort inherent in learning, the mind becomes more flexible, receptive, and capable of deeper insight. Avoiding discomfort often leads to chasing superficial pleasure instead of pursuing meaningful goals. When the mind prioritizes comfort over growth, it gravitates toward distractions, entertainment, mindless browsing, social approval, or other temporary comforts. These provide immediate relief but do not contribute to long-term fulfillment. Buddhism teaches that true satisfaction arises not from avoidance, but from engagement with reality, including its difficult aspects. By willingly entering discomfort, you align effort with purpose, creating the conditions for genuine accomplishment rather than fleeting gratification. Importantly, resisting discomfort is linked to attachment to outcomes, a concept we discussed earlier. When the mind clings to a vision of how life should be, every challenge feels threatening, and every moment of discomfort becomes intolerable. Buddhism provides the solution. Act with awareness, remain present, and focus on effort rather than the result. When discomfort is accepted as part of the process, it no longer feels like a barrier, but becomes a natural companion on the journey toward your goals. You stop avoiding growth and start welcoming it. Practical application involves gradually embracing discomfort in daily life. Start small. Take on tasks you normally avoid. Practice honesty in difficult conversations. confront minor fears, or engage in disciplined routines even when inconvenient. Each act of facing discomfort trains the mind, reduces fear, and builds resilience. Over time, challenges that once felt daunting become manageable, and the mind develops a sense of stability, calm, and confidence. This skill is indispensable for achieving long-term goals, as life invariably presents difficulties that cannot be avoided. In conclusion, resisting discomfort is a major reason people fail at their goals. It leads to procrastination, fear, avoidance, shallow effort, and missed opportunities for growth. Buddhism teaches that discomfort is not an enemy but a teacher. By observing it with awareness, accepting it as part of the process, and acting skillfully despite it, we transform resistance into resilience. Success, mastery, and personal growth require engagement with the uncomfortable, the uncertain, and the challenging. Those who embrace discomfort cultivate inner strength, wisdom, and the ability to persist where others give up. In essence, discomfort is the crucible in which achievement and transformation are forged. To resist it is to block your own potential. To embrace it is to open the path to lasting fulfillment and progress. The sixth reason most people fail at their goals is ignoring impermanence. This is a concept at the very heart of Buddhist philosophy, yet it is one of the most overlooked principles when it comes to achieving success. Life is constantly changing, circumstances shift, emotions fluctuate, people come and go, and external conditions evolve in ways beyond our control. Despite this, most people behave as if life were permanent, as if results would remain static, as if success or failure were fixed and unchanging. This mindset creates a fragile foundation for achieving any meaningful goal. When we ignore impermanence, we cling to outcomes, resist change, and measure success against a moving, unpredictable reality. The result is frustration, disappointment, and often outright failure. Impermanence, or anicca in Buddhist terminology, is the understanding that all things are transient. Nothing lasts forever, not wealth, status, relationships, abilities, or even motivation itself. Yet most people plan, act, and evaluate themselves as if permanence were guaranteed. They assume that if they achieve a goal, it will secure happiness forever, or if they fail, it will define their future indefinitely. This assumption is flawed. Life's constant changes mean that no single moment, outcome, or achievement can permanently satisfy or secure us. Ignoring this truth leads to clinging, attachment, and inflexibility, key obstacles to consistent progress toward goals. One of the most insidious ways ignoring impermanence manifests is over-identification with results. When someone achieves a goal, they often treat it as proof of permanent competence, superiority, or security. A promotion, a completed project, a financial milestone, these are seen as unshakable markers of achievement. But life is dynamic. The skills, circumstances, and resources that brought success today may not exist tomorrow. By failing to recognize impermanence, we become complacent, resistant to adaptation, or overly proud. Conversely, when setbacks occur, they are treated as permanent failures, leading to despair, self-doubt, or even giving up entirely. Buddhism teaches that both success and failure are temporary, and understanding this allows the mind to remain balanced and resilient regardless of circumstances. Impermanence also applies to motivation and mental states. Most people fail at their goals because they assume motivation should be constant. They start with enthusiasm and energy, and when excitement fades, they interpret it as a lack of ability, discipline, or potential. In truth, mental states fluctuate naturally. They rise and fall like waves. By ignoring impermanence, we misinterpret temporary lapses as permanent deficits, creating unnecessary self-criticism and discouragement. Buddhism encourages mindfulness of these fluctuations, observing mental states without clinging to them or being defined by them. Motivation may ebb and flow, but steady, mindful effort can continue despite these natural changes. Understanding impermanence frees us from the illusion that consistent success requires constant emotion or excitement. Another way ignoring impermanence sabotages goals is through fear of change. People often resist altering their methods, strategies, or expectations because they want stability. They cling to familiar routines, habits, or even ideas of success, believing these will guarantee results. This resistance to change can prevent growth, limit adaptation, and ultimately block progress. Buddhism teaches that all circumstances are temporary, and clinging to permanence is a source of suffering. By embracing the reality of change, we become flexible, adaptable, and capable of responding intelligently to shifting conditions. We learn to act skillfully within the moment, rather than being rigidly attached to outdated plans or assumptions. Impermanence also reshapes our understanding of setbacks. In a world where everything is transient, a failure is not a permanent verdict, it is merely a temporary state. Projects can be restarted, skills can be rebuilt, relationships repaired, and circumstances improved. When we fail to grasp this, every setback feels catastrophic, and the emotional weight can be paralyzing. Buddhism emphasizes the importance of perspective. By recognizing impermanence, we see challenges as temporary, fluid, and ultimately manageable. This awareness encourages persistence, resilience, and creativity, because the mind is no longer trapped by the illusion that one moment defines the entirety of life or one outcome dictates ultimate worth. Ignoring impermanence also impacts goal setting itself. Most people set rigid goals with fixed timelines and static expectations, failing to account for the natural variability of life. When unexpected changes occur, illness, economic shifts, personal responsibilities, the rigid goal becomes a source of stress rather than guidance. Buddhism teaches that flexibility and responsiveness are essential. By recognizing impermanence, you can adjust goals, expectations, and methods without losing focus or motivation. Goals become a framework for growth, not a trap that collapses under the weight of unforeseen circumstances. Another critical aspect is attachment to external validation. People often measure success by recognition, praise, or comparison to others, yet these are impermanent and unreliable. Colleagues move on, accolades fade, and social approval is fleeting. When we ignore impermanence, we invest too much of our self-worth in these transient markers, leading to emotional instability and poor decision-making. Buddhism reminds us that true stability arises from within, from effort, awareness, and alignment with values, not from external, impermanent conditions. This internal orientation allows us to pursue goals without being derailed by changing opinions, circumstances, or societal pressures. Ignoring impermanence also contributes to burnout. Many people pursue goals with relentless intensity, assuming that sustained effort without rest or adaptation is the path to success. When energy dips, setbacks occur, or results take longer than expected, frustration grows and motivation collapses. Recognizing impermanence encourages balance. Understanding that energy, focus, and resources are limited and fluctuating allows for rest, recalibration, and sustainable effort. Buddhist wisdom emphasizes rhythm and flow, teaching that growth occurs gradually and organically, and that resisting natural fluctuations leads to exhaustion rather than achievement. Furthermore, impermanence changes the way we view attachment to material or external outcomes. People cling to wealth, possessions, status, or results, thinking they are permanent markers of achievement. When circumstances shift or losses occur, despair follows. Buddhism teaches that everything is transient, and clinging creates unnecessary suffering. By internalizing impermanence, we cultivate detachment, not indifference, but freedom. Goals can be pursued passionately, yet we remain resilient when outcomes change, failures happen, or external conditions shift. This perspective fosters wisdom, equanimity, and sustained effort over time. In practical terms, embracing impermanence involves constant mindfulness and reflection. Observe your goals, achievements, and setbacks with awareness, recognizing their transient nature. Notice how emotions rise and fall, how circumstances shift, and how even motivation is fleeting. When setbacks occur, remind yourself they are temporary. When success comes, savor it, but do not cling. Adjust goals and strategies as life evolves, rather than rigidly holding on to outdated plans. Cultivate flexibility, patience, and awareness, understanding that change is the only constant. This approach transforms challenges into opportunities, setbacks into lessons, and effort into steady, sustainable progress. In conclusion, ignoring impermanence is a subtle but profound reason why most people fail at their goals. Life is in constant flux, yet we act as if conditions, results, and emotions are fixed. This leads to attachment, resistance, frustration, and poor judgment. Buddhism teaches that understanding and accepting impermanence allows us to act with wisdom, patience, and resilience. We can approach goals with steady effort, adjust to changing circumstances, and view setbacks as temporary rather than defining. By embracing the transient nature of life, we transform failure into feedback, challenges into growth, and the pursuit of goals into a balanced, fulfilling journey. Success is no longer fragile or dependent on fixed outcomes. It becomes a dynamic, ongoing process, aligned with reality itself. Those who internalize impermanence cultivate clarity, flexibility, and equanimity, creating the foundation for lasting achievement and deep satisfaction. The seventh and final reason most people fail at their goals is a lack of alignment with their inner nature. This is subtle, often overlooked, but perhaps the most fundamental cause of failure. Many people spend years pursuing goals that feel urgent, impressive, or socially acceptable, only to discover that these goals do not resonate with their authentic self. Buddhism teaches that suffering arises when actions, desires, and external expectations are misaligned with the true nature of the mind. When your goals conflict with who you really are, your values, your strengths, your intrinsic motivations, every effort becomes a struggle, and even success feels hollow. Inner nature refers to the essential qualities, inclinations, and purpose of an individual. It includes innate talents, passions, moral values, emotional patterns, and the unique way one experiences the world. When goals are imposed externally by society, family, or ego-driven comparisons, they often ignore these inner truths. Someone may pursue a high-paying career because it appears prestigious, even though their natural strengths lie in creativity or service. Another may chase fitness goals based on social pressure, while their body thrives with different forms of movement or practice. Misalignment creates internal tension, energy is expended in directions that feel unnatural, and motivation fluctuates because the heart is not invested in the goal itself. One of the main consequences of ignoring inner alignment is inconsistency. When a goal does not resonate with your authentic self, effort becomes sporadic, enthusiasm fades, and setbacks feel unbearable. The mind resists persistence because it senses that the effort is not truly meaningful. In Buddhist terms, this is a form of internal conflict or disharmony between intention and action. The mind perceives effort as laborious rather than fulfilling. Over time, this dissonance erodes self-discipline, reduces resilience, and increases the likelihood of giving up entirely. Alignment with inner nature, on the other hand, fuels a steady, sustained energy that persists even in the face of challenges. Misalignment also leads to suffering through frustration and self-doubt. People may diligently pursue a goal, achieving partial success, only to feel emptiness or dissatisfaction because the goal does not reflect their true purpose. For example, someone may earn acclaim in a field they have little passion for, only to feel unfulfilled despite external markers of success. Buddhism teaches that fulfillment is not found in external outcomes alone, but in the harmony between inner intention and outer action. Without this harmony, achievement becomes a form of stress rather than a source of growth. Misalignment creates a constant tension between what I am doing and who I am, undermining both confidence and clarity. A critical element of this problem is the influence of ego and social conditioning. Many people adopt goals that serve to validate identity, gain approval, or signal success to others. While these goals may seem productive, they often ignore the authentic desires of the mind. The ego is powerful and subtle, convincing individuals that societal recognition, wealth, or status will bring fulfillment, even when these are not aligned with their inner nature. Buddhism teaches that attachment to ego-driven goals is a major source of suffering because it creates endless striving for something external, never fully satisfying the deeper self. Only by connecting with your authentic nature can goals become vehicles of genuine fulfillment. Another consequence of misalignment is poor decision-making. When goals conflict with inner nature, choices are guided by external pressures rather than intrinsic wisdom. People may take actions that feel wrong, force themselves into uncomfortable routines, or adopt methods that undermine their natural strengths. For example, a person who is naturally reflective and contemplative may pursue a high-paced, competitive environment, burning out quickly. Conversely, someone who thrives on collaboration may isolate themselves in individualistic pursuits, limiting growth. Misalignment distorts judgment, increases stress, and reduces the efficiency and effectiveness of effort. Buddhist insight encourages reflection and self-awareness to recognize these incongruities and adjust goals and actions accordingly. Misalignment also impacts motivation and perseverance. Goals that resonate with inner nature inspire sustained effort even in the face of adversity. When a goal feels authentic, challenges are seen as meaningful opportunities rather than unbearable obstacles. People aligned with their inner nature are naturally persistent. Effort is energized by passion, curiosity, and a sense of purpose. Misaligned goals, in contrast, drain energy, making obstacles feel insurmountable. Every setback, difficulty, or delay becomes justification for quitting because the mind is not invested in the direction. Understanding and honoring inner nature ensures that perseverance comes naturally, not as a forced act of willpower. Spiritual and emotional dimensions are equally important. Buddhism teaches that the mind and heart function best when aligned with their inherent nature. Ignoring inner nature leads to internal conflict, emotional stress, and a sense of fragmentation. Meditation and mindfulness practices reveal this dissonance, showing where actions, intentions, and goals diverge from authentic purpose. By cultivating awareness, individuals can reconnect with their true inclinations, values, and strengths, creating a path of action that feels integrated rather than forced. Alignment transforms goals from burdens into expressions of self, producing satisfaction and resilience regardless of external outcomes. Inner alignment also fosters wisdom in goal setting. Goals that reflect the authentic self are realistic, attainable, and naturally motivating. Misaligned goals often ignore personal limitations, strengths, and values, creating unrealistic expectations and unnecessary struggle. For example, a person may pursue a goal simply because others have achieved it, not considering whether it matches their abilities or circumstances. Buddhism emphasizes self-inquiry, understanding what is appropriate, meaningful, and fulfilling for oneself. By aligning goals with inner nature, effort becomes efficient, strategic, and fulfilling rather than exhausting and discouraging. Another critical factor is long-term sustainability. Goals aligned with inner nature create habits, routines, and strategies that feel natural and self-reinforcing. Effort flows more easily, motivation remains high, and setbacks are manageable because the mind is invested in the process. Misaligned goals, however, rely on external discipline and force, which are difficult to sustain over time. Burnout, distraction, and disillusionment are common because the energy required to maintain effort is greater than the intrinsic drive to continue. Buddhism teaches that sustainable effort comes from harmony between mind, action, and purpose. Alignment with inner nature provides this harmony. Finally, alignment with inner nature is the culmination of all previous lessons. Attachment to outcomes, chasing goals for the wrong reasons, ignorance of the mind, impatience, resisting discomfort, and ignoring impermanence, all these obstacles are mitigated when action is rooted in authentic purpose. When your goals reflect your inner nature, you naturally release attachment because the process itself is meaningful. You are less swayed by ego or external validation because your motivation is internal. You observe the mind without judgment, practice patience through discomfort, and embrace the natural flow of impermanence. Alignment integrates all aspects of Buddhist wisdom, transforming goal pursuit into a path of growth, fulfillment, and resilience. Practical steps to align with inner nature begin with deep self-reflection. Spend time observing your natural inclinations, strengths, passions, and values. Ask yourself, what kind of work feels effortless and meaningful? Which activities energize rather than drain me? What goals would I pursue if no one else were watching and no approval were required? Meditation, journaling, and mindful observation of daily behavior can reveal patterns and preferences that clarify authentic desires. By aligning goals with these insights, you create a foundation that supports sustained effort and personal satisfaction. Another practical approach is iterative experimentation. Sometimes, alignment is discovered not in contemplation alone, but through action. Try small projects or steps in different directions and observe which efforts resonate with your authentic self. Notice which activities generate joy, engagement, and perseverance, and which create resistance, stress, or emptiness. Use these observations to refine your goals and strategies, gradually converging on paths that are congruent with inner nature. Buddhist mindfulness supports this process, encouraging attentive observation without harsh judgment or attachment to immediate results. In conclusion, lack of alignment with inner nature is the silent but ultimate reason why most people fail at their goals. Misalignment creates internal tension, fluctuating motivation, poor decision-making, and unsustainable effort. Buddhist wisdom teaches that the authentic self is the compass that guides meaningful action. By connecting with inner nature, we harmonize intention, action, and purpose, transforming goal pursuit into a process of growth, fulfillment, and resilience. Alignment ensures that effort flows naturally. Obstacles are embraced as opportunities, and success becomes a byproduct of authentic, purposeful living. Those who align with their inner nature cultivate clarity, perseverance, and fulfillment, creating a foundation for lasting achievement that transcends external circumstances. As we reach the conclusion of this journey, it becomes clear that failure to achieve goals is rarely about talent, luck, or circumstance. The obstacles lie largely within our minds, our intentions, and our relationship to the world around us. The 7 lessons we have explored, the attachment to outcomes, chasing goals for the wrong reasons, ignorance of the mind, impatience, resisting discomfort, ignoring impermanence, and lack of alignment with inner nature are not isolated problems. They are interconnected threads, each one influencing and amplifying the others. Understanding them is the first step. Integrating their wisdom is the path to lasting success. The first lesson, attachment to outcomes, teaches us that the more we cling to results, the more fragile our efforts become. When happiness and self-worth are bound to achieving a particular goal, every setback triggers suffering, and even success may feel empty. But when we focus on the process rather than the result, we engage fully in the present moment, building skill, resilience, and satisfaction from the effort itself. This principle underpins all the other lessons. The ability to act without attachment stabilizes the mind, allowing us to respond effectively to challenges and uncertainties. The second lesson, chasing goals for the wrong reasons, reminds us that intention is everything. Goals driven by ego, societal pressure, or superficial desire are inherently unstable. They may produce short-term motivation but rarely sustain long-term commitment. By contrast, goals aligned with authentic purpose, ones that nurture growth, learning, and contribution, generate a natural, persistent energy. Motivation becomes intrinsic rather than extrinsic, and success is measured not solely by outcomes, but by the fulfillment and wisdom gained along the journey. Ignorance of the mind, the third lesson, reveals that our own mental habits are often the hidden obstacles to success. Without understanding how thoughts, emotions, and impulses shape behavior, even the most well-intentioned efforts can be undermined. Mindfulness, reflection, and meditation provide tools to observe the mind, recognize self-sabotaging patterns, and cultivate clarity and focus. Awareness transforms the mind from a source of internal resistance into a reliable ally, capable of guiding sustained, intelligent action. The fourth lesson, impatience, addresses our tendency to demand rapid results in a world that unfolds gradually. Impatience fuels frustration, poor decisions, and burnout. Buddhism teaches that patience is an active virtue, a steady engagement with the present, and a trust in the natural pace of growth. Through patience, challenges become manageable, effort becomes consistent, and progress unfolds organically. The mind learns to value steady effort over immediate gratification, creating a foundation for lasting achievement. The fifth lesson, resisting discomfort, emphasizes that growth cannot occur without tension, challenge, and even pain. Avoiding discomfort leads to stagnation, procrastination, and superficial achievement. By embracing difficulty with awareness, we transform resistance into resilience. Challenges become teachers rather than obstacles. Emotional, intellectual, and physical discomfort are signals that we are moving beyond the familiar, building strength, wisdom, and character in ways that are essential for meaningful accomplishment. Ignoring impermanence, the sixth lesson, reveals the subtle trap of treating life as static. Everything from emotions to circumstances to results is transient. Failing to recognize this leads to clinging, disappointment, and unnecessary suffering. By understanding impermanence, we cultivate flexibility, adaptability, and equanimity. Setbacks are temporary, achievements are fleeting, and motivation ebbs and flows naturally. Recognizing this allows us to navigate the ever-changing currents of life with stability, balance, and intelligent action. The seventh lesson, lack of alignment with inner nature, brings the journey full circle. Misaligned goals create internal tension, inconsistent effort, and hollow success. Aligning with one's authentic self, values, passions, and innate strengths creates harmony between intention, action, and purpose. When goals resonate with inner nature, motivation is sustained, setbacks are manageable, and effort flows naturally. Alignment integrates all the previous lessons. It reduces attachment, strengthens authentic intention, cultivates patience, fosters resilience through discomfort, and provides the flexibility to adapt to impermanence. Taken together, these lessons form a blueprint for achieving goals with wisdom, clarity, and sustainability. The external strategies often touted in self-help, rigid planning, sheer discipline, and relentless effort fail when the internal foundation is weak. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that the inner landscape is the true arena of mastery. Success is not a matter of force or circumstance. It is a product of alignment, awareness, patience, and authentic motivation. Without cultivating the mind, observing its patterns, and understanding its tendencies, all external effort becomes unstable and ultimately unsatisfying. So, how can this knowledge be applied in daily life? Begin by cultivating mindfulness in every action. Observe your thoughts, emotions, and motivations without judgment. Reflect on why you are pursuing each goal and whether it aligns with your authentic self. Practice patience, understanding that meaningful growth unfolds over time. Embrace discomfort as an opportunity for learning and resilience. Release attachment to outcomes, understanding that while results are natural consequences of effort, they are not the sole source of fulfillment. Recognize the impermanent nature of life, allowing flexibility and adaptability to guide your journey. And finally, align all actions with inner nature, creating harmony between who you are and what you seek to achieve. The culmination of these practices is a transformative shift in perspective. Goals are no longer sources of stress, anxiety, or ego reinforcement. They become pathways for growth, self-understanding, and fulfillment. Setbacks are reframed as lessons. Effort is valued as much as achievement, and success becomes a natural byproduct of living wisely and authentically. In this way, failure is not feared. It is understood as a teacher, revealing where awareness, alignment, or patience is needed. Achievement is not merely measured by external results, but by the development of character, insight, and harmony with life itself. In closing, the failure to achieve goals is rarely accidental or external. It is a reflection of our internal landscape, our attachments, intentions, understanding, patience, resilience, and alignment with our authentic selves. Buddhist wisdom offers a profound guide for navigating this terrain, showing that lasting achievement is less about external strategies and more about cultivating clarity, awareness, and harmony within. By integrating these 7 lessons into daily practice, we transform the pursuit of goals into a journey of wisdom, fulfillment, and lasting growth. Success becomes a natural extension of mindful effort, resilience, and alignment with the truth of life, rather than a fragile chase for fleeting results. Ultimately, the path to achieving goals is not about doing more or forcing outcomes. It is about being more aware, more aligned, more patient, and more willing to embrace the full spectrum of life's experiences. When these qualities guide action, goals are no longer distant, stressful targets. They become a natural expression of your authentic self, unfolding through mindful effort, steady persistence, and deep understanding. This is the path of wisdom, the path that Buddhism illuminates, and the path that allows anyone willing to practice it to transform both effort and life into something meaningful, sustainable, and profoundly rewarding. Remember, achieving your goals is not about forcing outcomes or rushing towards success. It is about understanding your mind, embracing discomfort, practicing patience, and aligning your actions with your true nature. Every setback, every challenge, every moment of struggle is an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to deepen your wisdom. When you act with awareness, release attachment to results, and move in harmony with the impermanent flow of life, your goals stop being distant targets and become a natural expression of who you truly are. Success, fulfillment, and lasting growth are not found in what you achieve, but in how you journey the mindful, steady, and authentic path you walk each day.